Information Technology and General Services Committee will now come to order. We may have a quorum in a few minutes, so with that, what we'll do is start with item number 2 and move forward from there, and we'll go back to item number 1 should we acquire a quorum in a few minutes. So item number 2.
Item number 2, ITA report relative to the Varsity Network no longer being carried on Fios TV.
Yes, good afternoon, Councilmember Carnes. William Imperial, ITA. With regard to this, ITA issued a report relative to the Varsity Network no longer being carried on Fios TV, which is a Verizon-based video services TV in the city of Los Angeles. It's gone off the air.
Okay. Is there anybody here to speak on item number 2? Public comment is open on item number 2. If anybody's here to speak to item number 2, I have cards before me. No cards seem to indicate that they are here to speak on item number 2. Therefore, public comment on item number 2 will now close. With that, this committee will note and file the report. Item number 3.
Item number 3, ITA report relative to Cox Communication channel addition and rate increases.
Yes, thank you. William Imperial again from the Information Technology Agency. Effective March 1st, 2009, Cox Communications will be adding Channel 210 style to their channel lineup. In addition, they will be taking a series of rate increases that are indicated on page 2 of the report that ITA issued on February 13, 2009. That appears to affect all of the cable services that Cox provides. Cox provides those services in the San Pedro area, Council District 15.
So relative to the city of Los Angeles, it's San Pedro, Council District 15.
Yes.
Okay. Is there anybody here to speak on item number 3? I do not see any cards before me asking to speak on public comment on item number 3. Public comment is now open on item number 3. Seeing and hearing no one come forward for public comment on item number 3. Public comment on item number 3 is now closed. With that, the committee will note and file the report. Item number 4.
Item number 4, ITA report relative to Time Warner programming changes for the Los Angeles area.
Thank you. William Imperial again from ITA. Effective December 1st, Mojo, currently carried on channel 422 of Time Warner's cable TV system, will cease operations and will therefore no longer be available on the Time Warner system. Effective January 30th, 2009, Elections on Demand went off the air as well on Time Warner's video on-demand services.
Okay. We're on item number 4. Is anybody here to speak on public comment on item number 4? As public comment is open for item number 4. Seeing and hearing none, public comment on item number 4 is now closed. With that, this committee will note and file the item. We move now to item number 5.
Item number 5, ITA report relative to Verizon Communications Fios TV pricing changes.
Yes, thank you. Again, William Imperial from ITA. Verizon Fios TV adjusted its service and equipment prices in January and will be adjusting them again this month pursuant to the report that ITA issued in November of 2008. And these services seem to reflect the level of services that Verizon provides on their upper service tier, as indicated in the report.
So along with the price change, there's additional program provided to the customer?
Yes, there is. They've actually regrouped or rebundled their services into something called La Conexión, the connection for their Spanish subscribers. They've also took an increase in their HBO and HBO Cinemax package, along with their set-top boxes.
Okay. We're on item number 5. Is there anybody from the public here to speak on item number 5 during public comment? Public comment is open on item number 5. Seeing and hearing no one come forward on item number 5 for public comment. Public comment on item number 5 is now closed. We'll note and file item number 5. We now move to item number 6.
Item number 6, ITA report relative to Time Warner cable pricing changes for former franchise areas B, D, J, K, L, and M.
Thank you again, William Imperial from ITA. Time Warner Cable adjusted their service and equipment prices effective in January 2009. ITA provided a summary chart of the proposed changes indicating the change from 2008 to 2009, which appeared to be about a $3 change in their broadcast basic services and their standard cable, there's very little change of pennies, actually. Their standard cable was another $3. These are service tiers for their cable services. The digital packages and prices increased by about $3 straight across the board. And their equipment prices went up from $1 to $2.99.
So are they increasing services as far as we can tell, or is it just a price adjustment?
Price
Some
adjustment.
Slight changes in services?
Price adjustment and probably some minor cable lineup changes as well.
Before the DFCA legislation passed in California, would these be matters that would be discussed before the changes were made, before the city council, or would they be matters as we've experienced through the items 2 through 6 so far that are discussed pretty much after the fact?
Where the city retained rate regulation authority for these areas that are included here on the broadcast basic service tier, the city would have had a right to weigh in on whether Time Warner could take those changes. We would have analyzed their pricing change structure. We would have looked at it from approximately 23 different factors that are involved in these pricing changes for broadcast basic, and then we would have made a determination as to whether they could take those and ask them to either roll back their rates or to provide a refund if we found them to be non-assessable based on the city's authority at that time. This was prior to the change in state law. Yes, you're right.
So, if I remember, if there's any business interests or people who represent business in the room, especially from the San Fernando Valley, I remember organizations from Los Angeles and throughout the state of California that were actually supporting DFCA legislation because they were saying with that increased competition, the consumer would see lower prices.
That's correct. That was
So that was said,
absolutely, that was said.
over and over and over.
It was said from the day that the bill was introduced all the way through the discussion of the bill in the Assembly and the Senate.
Wasn't it one of the main impetuses or the song that was sung as to why the bill needed to be passed?
Yes.
So
There was a
what,
claim made that there was no competition, despite the fact that the incumbent cable operators in the city of Los Angeles and throughout the state had competition from the satellite operators.
so far, are you in a position to say whether or not we've seen increase in pricing or decrease in pricing since DFCA passed and it's been implemented?
Our tracking of the pricing changes indicate that they've gone up, not down.
Say that again?
Our review of an assessment of all of the pricing changes that have occurred since DFCA has passed indicates that the pricing changes have gone up by at least 10%.
Well, the final version of the bill, maybe it wasn't like the bill was in the beginning. Maybe they depleted the opportunity for competition in the bill, did they?
No. No,
So there are more competitors for this customer today in Los Angeles, for example,
yes, there is.
as a result of DFCA.
Yes, there is.
But in Los Angeles, we haven't experienced a price decrease.
That's been the experience of Los Angeles and other cities throughout the state. There's been no decrease in cable prices throughout the state since DFCA's been passed.
All right. Okay, we're on item number 6. Is there anybody here to speak on item number 6? Anybody from the public wish to speak on public comment period during item number 6? As it is now open, seeing and hearing no one come forward, item number 6, public comment is now closed. With that, I will note and file item number 6. We'll move now to item number 7.
Item number 7, ITA report relative to Time Warner programming changes for franchise areas V, D, I, J, K, and M.
Yes, thank you. Once again, William Imperial from ITA. I believe that this is a report that was already handled by ITGS at one time. This is the Alpacatazo package that Time Warner rolled out last year, and they continue to roll out. And so
What's it called again?
Alpacatazo.
Is that in English or some other language?
That's in Spanish.
Oh, that's what I
It means
thought.
the big package.
Yeah, I've seen their commercials.
Yes.
Even my kids comment, they're kind of interesting, and I'm putting it nicely.
Yes.
Okay, we're on item number 7. Is there anybody here to make public comment during the public comment period of item number 7? It is now open. Seeing and hearing no one come forward for public comment on item number 7. Public comment on item number 7 is now closed. Any other comments on item number 7? Okay. With that, the committee will note and file item number 7. We now move to item number 8.
Item number 8, ITA report relative to Verizon communications programming and pricing changes.
Yes, thank you. This actually is a notification to the city that Verizon was actually providing to the city with regard to its pricing structure in 2008. There wasn't any real indication that their pricing structure had changed, but they began operating in the city sometime in March of 2007. So they did not take any real rate increases from 2007 to 2008.
Okay. Is there any representative here for Verizon? Anybody here representing Verizon as an auditor or speaking to an item of one of Verizon's changes? No one here from Verizon? Okay. All right. What's Fios?
Fios is a fiber optic system. That's their abbreviation for their fiber optic system that essentially represents fiber to the home that Verizon is providing to its subscribers in certain areas of the city. Verizon has indicated its intention to provide video services or cable services in its telephonic footprint in the city pursuant to its state franchise. So they actually take and build into the streets their fiber all the way up to the houses. It's called fiber to the home.
Similar to what cable companies have been doing for a while, as far as building to the home.
They build to the home, but they're on the wire. They are on the wires at the last 150 yards, depending on where they have their boxes in the street or on the poles. But this is a little bit different and a little bit more high speed from all the other systems that are out there.
Are there any other companies that have Fios here in Los Angeles?
No.
No. Okay, so all right. Okay. Is there anybody here to speak to item number 8? We're on item number 8. Public comment is open on item number 8 at this time. Public comment from the public. Anyone here to speak on item number 8? Seeing and hearing no one come forward, we'll note and file item number 8. With that, we'll move to item number 9.
Item number 9, ITA report relative to Time Warner cable pricing changes for former city franchise area A, C, F, G, H, I, and L.
Yes, again, this is another report I believe that we had offered to this council, this committee and council before, but it basically reflects what the pricing changes and programming changes were for 2008 for Time Warner last year in March of 2008. And if you note, it's straight across the board price increases at that time.
Okay. We're on item number 9. Is there anybody here to speak on public comment on item number 9? Anybody from the public who would like to speak to item number 9? As public comment is now open. Is that an item number 9 card? No. No? Okay. All right. So with that, seeing no one come forward to speak on item number 9, public comment is now closed on item number 9. The committee will now note and file item number 9. We'll move now to item number 10.
Item number 10, ITA report relative to AT&T U-verse programming changes effective November 10th, 2008.
Yes, thank you. William Imperial again from ITA. This report is provided pursuant to a notice that AT&T provided to the city that it was going to move its Universal HD channel to a new tier titled the HD Premium Tier Package from its old tier, and I should say the old tiers of service that AT&T is still continuing to provide, the U Family, U100, U200, U300, and U400. So it's a one-channel change.
Okay. Is there anybody here to speak on public comment on item number 10? Public comment for item number 10 is now open. Seeing and hearing no one come forward on item number 10, committee will now note and file item number 10. Thank you very much. We now go back to item number 1.
Item number 1, CAO report in response to motion Han Labange relative to the proposed acquisition of city-owned property located at 10800 South Central Avenue by the Watts Labor Community Action Committee. Additionally, this item has been referred to the Budget and Finance Committee.
Hello.
Earl Taylor from the CEO's office. The report before you provides recommendations regarding the proposed acquisition of the city-owned property by the Watts Labor Action Committee. In 2007, GSD appraised the property at about $1.6 million. WLCAC proposed to acquire the property for $80,000 and the remaining amount in cash. Officers discussed the motion with the city attorney, CDD, and GSD. And we've determined that there are several issues that need to be considered. Some funding for the improvements to the property were from the Community Development Block Grant, and HUD regulations mandate that any sale of property, that was improved with HUD funds, should be at the fair market value, and HUD should be reimbursed at the fair market value. The next issue had to do with the city's surplus property review process, and the third issue had to do with the ongoing study on the city's city-owned property that's listed to nonprofits. So we recommend that to move forward on this issue, that the council, subject to the approval of the mayor, instruct the general manager of CDD to conduct an in-depth study as to the amount of funding from CDBG that's been expended on this property. And also, this is a new issue for the city, so the city would need to obtain permission from HUD as to whether we can accept HUD improved property for cash and in kind. And then we also recommend that the the council instruct GSD to conduct the surplus property process. And then at the completion of both review, the CEO would report back with recommendations on the sale of the property.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody here from GSD who can speak to this item?
Good afternoon, Lourdes Alvin from General Services.
Are you able to answer the question relative to where the GSD is on the surplus property process?
We are initiating the surplus process as of today,
What does that mean?
which means we've started sending out notices to other governmental agencies.
Okay, so you're beginning the process of compiling an accurate list of surplus properties?
Now, we're beginning the process of declaring the property surplus by notifying that it's available for sale to other governmental agencies, and then also obtain an update on the Class C, on the appraisal of the property, get title reports, and legal description from Bureau of Engineering.
Okay, any questions?
I think if the motion that we put forward may have jumped a step ahead, I don't think our intent was to send a letter to declare it surplus. I think they asked for a Class C estimate and an evaluation so that we had the ability to determine what the condition of the property, the value of the property, and that we'd also ask that the lease agreements be looked at to see exactly where the city stood, because, and then within that, the CAO was putting together a policy statement on how we dealt with city property and nonprofits in the future. But the intent of the motion wasn't that we immediately declare it all surplus and begin to sell it. We want to eventually get to that point if there are nonprofits in there that can't meet the standards. But the declaring it surplus may be a premature step.
All right, we'll do what is directed of GSD in accordance with the council motion.
Look at that and see, just so I'm clear on it, but it appeared that we were asking for a lot of information, but I don't think you can do it in isolation from the CAO who's creating, the CAO and the CLA are creating a definitive policy that will determine what our relationship in the future will be with nonprofits and how they can lease or rent property. And I think once that policy is set and either people can conform with it or not, then the surplusing issue takes place.
Okay. Yes, I'm reading the motion and for GSD to perform a technical review of the Class A appraisal and determine whether the property's fair market value is 1.625, 700 million.
And I think somebody told us that amongst the whole list, they had a random guess of about $55 million worth of city property was encompassed in city-owned property leased to nonprofits.
Yes, no, the second motion. Okay. Yes.
So there's the specific instructions to GSD relative to this one property, and also what the councilman is referring to is a separate motion that encompasses the process of surplus property and us finally getting a handle on that.
And I think, is that the 082762 that was referenced?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
I'm reading it. And we have, actually, we will be updating, we have a list, and we're updating the information that's shown on this second motion.
Yeah, I would just ask that this and any other property that comes forward, that we wait until that study is done before we handle them individually, because when we deal with block grant money, if we make any mistakes, the fallback is always the general fund. So if there's a dispute that we've done something with block grant inappropriately, they're just going to come and ask from the general fund. So it just appears if we get that motion, that 08 motion done citywide and get that policy, then all of them should be addressed similarly.
We have a public comment card on item number 1. Parker Anderson.
Good afternoon. I'm Parker Anderson with the Watts Labor Community Action Committee. Just a quick comment. We've been in conversations with the city now for over a year about the possibility of purchasing that particular property. We've been operating that site since it was built in 1975, so we've been operating it for 33 years. We currently have a 60-child capacity, infants and toddlers. It's the only infant center in South LA. It's adjacent to DPSS and the 4 housing projects. The reason we were engaged in conversations with the city about purchasing the property is that, understanding the fiscal situation of the city and with general services in general, we poured an awful lot of money into the facility trying to maintain the quality of that environment for the kids. We just did a complete rebuild with 150 volunteers of the playground for about $100,000. We did a complete interior renovation. We've repaired the roof twice. We put in a sophisticated security alarm because of the gang problem and the concern that the property basically be gutted and burned down. So we put a lot of energy and cash into the building trying to maintain it, and we're just, that piece, along with the fact that we're looking to try to purchase the property next door and create a child and family development center, but without control of the property, we can't do that. So for us, the time issue is important, I guess, is all I'm trying to share. And when I looked at the recommendations in the report, it indicates that the CO would report back 30 days after all the information has been compiled. My concern is it could take months and months and months to generate the policy, to do the surplus property review, to engage with HUD and get the feedback from HUD in terms of their response. And we would just respectfully request that that be expedited as much as possible, because for us, the safety of the kids and the meters running at the same time.
You know, one thing, and I appreciate your concerns, but one of the, if I understand the system properly, one of the things that I don't think is going to go away is that HUD does have a requirement about how property is sold.
That's correct.
And often when we sell property, and you know as much and better than most about it, when you sell it, they basically are asking certain requirements as it relates to the cost and whether you're selling it at the market rate and things of that nature. They, as we mentioned, I think recently in another sale of property, that with those limitations, it's just the color of money. It depends on whether, if the council district has some other funds that they can move CDD out of the equation, and that money is not set up with those encumbrances, you have less concern. And I think those are the issues I think we have to be confronted with, because if we ignore HUD and sell it, or services, and they come back and say, you should have sold it for market value, then the general fund is tapped to replace that.
No, I understand. I mean, I understand the exposure of the city. I won't bore you with some of the historical precedents, but there are precedents with HUD of the service payback as a way of returning the funds, if you will, to HUD. In addition, this was built with model cities funds, and I would suggest that HUD needs to look at the regulations in place at that time to determine the real property disposition requirements, not the current real property disposition requirements that are identified in the current regulations. So, and we'd be happy to work with the General Services and CDD to give our ideas and input on it.
Since it seems as though you deal with the federal government as well, and you've been occupying the facility since its inception, correct?
Yes.
That definitely your support and historical perspective and putting the perspective together as to what the relationship is with HUD and this property and the city and your organization, that certainly will help out. So we appreciate your efforts in making sure that you bring any information to the table that would help us have an accurate picture and hopefully have a successful transition from the city to your organization.
Thank you.
So we appreciate that. And also, the questions to HUD are twofold. It's my understanding. They're asking HUD specifically about this scenario on this particular property on this address, and they're also asking HUD to give us shed more light on the other properties that may have their opinion as to whether or not we can sell them. So we have the individual question of this property, and then the generic question about the other properties as well.
Right, and this may be a little bit different given the Model Cities Demonstration Act funding of this way back in the 70s.
And the only way that those other questions to HUD could hinder this process and delay it would be if they didn't want to answer the question about this property separately, and they said, well, we're going to answer all of them at the same time. Not that the federal government would never do that, but obviously it's incumbent upon us to remind them that that isn't an efficient way of doing it, and we have a special need on this property, and we need that answer separate. So,
And I think on the other issues from the organization, they've had loans from the city in the past.
That's correct.
But those were loans on programs, not property.
not property.
I think that's the difference. And again, whatever clarity we can come up with, we're not slowing it down just to slow it down. We certainly don't want to come back and have a liability on the city's general fund because we inadvertently did not know the rules or didn't process the rules.
And clearly, given the budget situation at the present time, any city assets have to be looked at carefully. I understand that.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything else you'd like to add? Okay. Anybody else here for public comment on item number 1? Seeing and hearing none, public comment on item number 1 is now closed. With that, the committee will approve the CAO report. Were there any changes to that or technical amendments to that report?
No, just a question though.
Yes.
With what Councilmember Parks indicated with regards to the study, should we hold this until the study is completed or move forward with the work?
I think on this one.
There are report backs on this
I think there's report backs on this one.
Yes.
I would hope they go simultaneously, but I think we got to get with HUD specifically on this one.
Okay.
Because it just may be unique compared to the rest of the ones we're doing.
Okay.
And I would just hope that whoever's handling the other one is working.
continues to move it.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So the committee approves the CAO report and with those instructions. Now we move to item number 11.
Item number 11, this is a potential closed session item under Government Code Sections 54956.9 and 54956.9C to allow the committee to confer with its legal counsel in the following matter. ITA report relative to AT&T's provision of public educational and governmental access programming and services pursuant to the Digital Infrastructure and Video Competition Act, Public Utilities Code Sections 5800 et sec.
Okay. Question of the clerk. This is the last item on the agenda, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So with that, we're going to do two things at this time. We're going to hold this item for a second and go back to it. First, I want to open up the committee for general public comment, so as people who are here for general public comment do not have to wait till we get back out of closed session to make their comments. General public comment is now open at this time to this committee. Is there anybody here for general public comment? That is comments relative to this committee's agendas, responsibilities, but that are not agendized on today's agenda. Seeing and hearing none, general public comment is now closed for this committee. We now go back to item number 11, and we open it up to comments to this committee on item number 11. So with that, I will call people up in this order. Tracy Chavira and Stuart Waldman.
Good afternoon.
And Vanessa Rodriguez.
Good afternoon, Tracy Shavira with Central City Association. CCA opposes any legal action by the city against AT&T for its method of delivering its public, educational, and government programming to television viewers in the city. AT&T has been a model corporate citizen in Los Angeles for many years. The company employs over 10,000 people in the Los Angeles region. We believe that filing a lawsuit at this time would be premature and unnecessarily costly to taxpayers. There is no evidence that AT&T's method for providing PEG would not meet the needs of its subscribers and your constituents. Further, subscribers have the choice to move to cable or satellite if the PEG offering or any offering of UVerse does not meet their needs. Given the city's looming budget deficit, every effort should be made to resolve this matter outside of litigation before using scarce taxpayer dollars to fund the lawsuit. There is no clear victory here for the City of Los Angeles. Even if a lawsuit were successful after many years and much cost, the end result may be an end to AT&T's build-out and a loss of local jobs, contracts to small businesses, as well as the franchise and PEG fees AT&T does and will provide. AT&T wants to offer a choice to Los Angeles residents, and we respectfully request that you take the opportunity to understand the company's unique network architecture before considering legal action. Thank you.
In a nutshell, I think what you just described, and correct me if I'm wrong, that your organization feels as though the fact that AT&T is a big employer in the community, that should weigh in as to whether or not we feel they are right or wrong, or we're wrong or right, before we ensue into a lawsuit?
Councilmember, we would just like you to take into consideration the economic climate that we're in, and AT&T has been a model business in the area, and it does employ thousands of employees in the region, and so we would like you to take that into consideration, as well as look at their network architecture.
Councilmember, can I chime in, and I'll forego my time because I'd
Your
like
name?
to comment. Vanessa Rodriguez, the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce. And I think what Tracy and CCA, and I'm sure what Vica will speak to as well, is kind of the bigger picture. It's not so much that we want AT&T to have a free pass because they're a model citizen or they're an employer of local jobs and what have you, although that's very important. I know I can speak on behalf of the Chamber, and what we see is how important this is to AT&T and the city and the taxpayers mostly, because if this does end up in litigation, the city already has a widening budget gap. And as that gap continues to widen, we can't keep asking taxpayers to pay more in taxes and businesses to pay more in taxes and then have it going to lawsuits. That just doesn't make sense. And from the bigger picture, LA County has 7 out of 10 of the most expensive places to do business in for businesses, and only 1 of the top 10 least expensive places to do business in. And that's not a statistic that we want to keep continuing in the city of Los Angeles. And when you have good employers in the region and you go after them in litigation, that's not necessarily necessary. I think it sends a very bad message that the city is continuing to be business unfriendly even in an economic downturn. So with that, that's pretty much the comments I wanted to make, and hopefully answered and explained our position, certainly the Chamber's position.
Well, when you talk about sending a bad message, doesn't it send the converse bad message, such as if you're a small, nice guy operator or gal, and you've got 2 employees, and the city feels as though you're really doing something wrong, and we have a responsibility to hold you to your responsibilities, by be it regulation or contract or what have you. So because they're a small employer of 2 people, maybe we shouldn't be so considerate and just go after them.
No, absolutely the opposite is true. The LA area chamber represents 1,200 businesses. I would say throughout the entire region, and I would say at least 75 to 85% of our membership is small to medium-sized businesses, and we stand up for them on numerous issues that are maybe less high-profile than this lawsuit. Our main concern with this issue is take AT&T aside and out of it, we just continue to become increasingly concerned at the city's behavior of initiating what we see as frivolous lawsuits.
Frivolous lawsuits?
Is, in our opinion, I'm not speaking on behalf of the other organizations I share this table with, but on behalf of the chamber and a business organization, it's troublesome to us.
So it sounds to me what you just characterized, whenever the city has to contemplate getting into a lawsuit with a business that employs 2 people or thousands of people in our community, that it's probably something we shouldn't do.
I'm not on the city council, so I unfortunately don't have a vote in that matter. What I would say and caution is, first and foremost, we have to be respectful and very cautious of how we use taxpayer dollars. And unfortunately, taxpayers aren't consulted when the city does enter on their behalf a lawsuit. So what I would say is we need to be more cautious of how we use taxpayer and general fund dollars when the city isn't in a robust economic position to maybe go after everything that they would like to champion.
Okay, thank you. Stuart Waldman. And, yeah, Stuart.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Stuart Waldman, president of Vica, the Valley Industry and Commerce Association. We represent over 300 businesses in the San Fernando Valley, and I'm also a lawyer. The goal of any negotiation is to not have to go to a lawsuit. Once you go to a lawsuit, it's extremely expensive. And in this situation, Vica feels that it is best to negotiate, to come up with solutions rather than going to lawsuit. It's my understanding that AT&T has been working with you, and in fact, on closed captioning and secondary audio, that situation will be taken care of by the 3rd quarter this year. So when looking at the current fiscal situation that we're in, Vica would ask that we do not go to a lawsuit and work this out.
So I guess AT&T is doesn't, by the end of this year, they're not going to go to Channel 99 on the PEG channels. Because according to Mr. Waldman, everything's going to be in order by the end of this year as far as our differences with AT&T. Is that what you just said?
My understanding is that they are working with you to solve those differences.
Yeah, we just got a letter from AT&T on February 27th as the latest response in the negotiations and goings back and forth, and it was signed by Danita Willoughby, Vice President of External Affairs. And at least without question, over the last few weeks, we seem to be, they seem to stay where they're at, and we're staying where we're at so far at the staff level. And now the council is going to contemplate what we're going to do when it comes to the policy-making body of the city. Anything else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Waldman. Good to see you. Ed Colto. Is there an Ed Colto here? Sorry if I say your name wrong. It's K-O-L-T-O. I figured that's what you said. How do you say your name?
It's Ed Colto. You got it
Okay.
right.
All right.
Yeah. I just wanted to keep it very brief, and I wanted to thank the city representatives who came out to work with AT&T and to take a look at our product and to engage in discussions. And just wanted to express the hope that we could continue to work collaboratively. I know that the city is an important partner of AT&T, and AT&T is an important partner for the city. We try and help the community out as much as we can. And I think that we've had a strong relationship for some time. So rather than going to litigation, as was just expressed, it's our hope that we could continue to work through some of the issues and to resolve any differences that we may have. Thank you.
Yes, how many city officials came out to tour?
Excuse me?
How many city officials came out to tour your technology?
11? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, those are the public comment cards that I have before me on item number 11. As we've opened up public comment before we go into closed session, before we clear the room one more time, is there anybody else who'd like to make a comment on public comment on item number 11? No one from the public wishes to speak on item number 11, other than those that already did. Therefore, public comment on item number 11 is now closed. With that, if you'll excuse us, we'll have to clear the room so that we can go into closed session.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
So that's really important. Okay, we are now in the open session. This Information Technology and General Services Committee has covered all the items on the agenda and also general public comment. And with that, this committee is now adjourned.